Hello everyone. This video is going to be very interesting. I called the Watchtower asking about false religion and false prophets. It was an interesting conversation. I took some of the main parts out so y'all could get the basic of it. So I'm going to let y'all listen to it and then we'll go from there.
they are the reader of the prophet and the interpreter of it. The prophecy hasn't changed.
Well, I'm talking about someone's literature that they wrote putting a date in their books.
Well, it's not wise to put a date on things that God has not revealed. In a way that is, if only the Father knows, and even Jesus, when he was on the earth, he did not know the entirety of matters. He didn't know. He said, only the Father knows, as you quoted. So for anyone to say, on a certain date, a certain thing is going to happen, really is kind of taking on themselves the responsibility for something that God has kept to himself.
I agree with you. Kind of hurt me when I was digging in, different religions and all. I mean, God is the only one person to know, and neither Jesus nor the angels know. How would man know?
Well, that is so. But now let's be fair. We do have indications in the scriptures that I referenced a few minutes ago, Matthew chapter 24.
Right.
We also have Mark chapter 13. We also have 2 Peter 3, 1 to 5 that tells us what things would be like in the conclusion of the system of things.
True.
The same thing is true about understanding the prophecies about the conclusion of the system of things. They are there so that we can do something about it. And that kind of comes back to, Jesus said to keep on the watch because you don't know when it's going to happen. Part of keeping on the watch is watching what's going on the world scene and thinking, something, we are much closer now than we ever have been to what Jesus said was to be the conclusion of the system of things. And so attentiveness to it is absolutely necessary in order for us to survive the conclusion of the system of things. Part of that, having expectations, then is not a bad thing. It's a bad thing to put a date on it when it hasn't been revealed, but to know that it is close keeps us safe.
It's to keep us alert in case when that day comes or the hour comes. But when you put a date on something, then when you get to that date and nothing happens, and a year later that date done passed, that would make that religion look really bad.
About 100 years ago, Jehovah's Witnesses pointed to 1914 as a very significant date. And 1914 came and went. And a lot of people thought nothing happened. But when you look at the prophecies, oh yes, it did happen. Some might have expected Christ to come in 1914, but that is not what was really stated. Christ did come. He sat down on the throne in the heavens in 1914. It wasn't seen by anyone here, but boy, did we ever see the effects of it. In Revelation, what does it say the first thing Christ did when he sat down on the throne? He cleansed heavens, right? He ousted Satan from the heavens. What happened on the earth in the fall of 1914 that's been going on ever since?
Wars.
Okay, all the things that Jesus said in Matthew 24 would happen during the time of the end. The reason that has happened is because Satan has been cast out of heaven. He's been confined to this little pillbox of the area of the earth.
Well, you just heard they mentioned about they had expectations about 1914 that Christ was supposed to come back. And then he mentioned later on nothing happened until World War I started. So if it wasn't for World War I, 1914 would have been a lie. Second, when Christ went back to heaven, he sat on his Father's throne. He sat at his Father's right hand. He did not do that in 1914. He was already privileged to sit at his Father's right hand. So that part that he sat on his Father's throne in 1914, that is a lie. And another thing, all these books that you're looking at here, about 4 or 5 of these books all have one thing in common. Prediction that the world was going to end in 1925. The resurrection of Abraham, Isaac. Even one of these books has Abel. I think that's the children's book. Mentioned about Abel was going to be resurrected. But he mentioned that no one should be called false prophet because the prophecies haven't came through yet. Well, all the prophecies has came true. Even the one I talk about in the last days, there will be false prophets. There will be false teachers, false Christ. All of that was revealed too. So anybody is a false prophet is the one that putting dates in. The time and season will be considered as a false prophet. And that's what Jehovah's Witnesses has done. I know. I was in this religion for many years. And I studied these books. And these books was written by the Watchtower. So he said, if he was in a religion that was not using the Bible all the way, and he found there's contradictions in their leadership, he would quit that religion. Well, guess what? That's what I done and many others done. We quit being Jehovah's Witnesses because we found the lies in their own literature that they have done over hundreds of years that the world was going to end. They lied to the members and they deceived the members, making them think that Armageddon was going to start, and it never did. So by the Bible, that would be called false prophet. And yes, the Bible does say what the last days will be. And you should keep on the watch. That part I did agree. But what I was trying to tell him, I don't agree when a religion put false dates in their teaching and making people believe that their world was going to end and Armageddon was going to start. So the guy didn't know his own religion is a false prophet and a cult and a false religion. I know. I was in it. I know. Because these books is 100% proof of information that I found about their own doctrine. Please, if you're anyone studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, look up these books. They were made by Judge Rutherford. And he's the one who gave the name to Jehovah's Witnesses. So, out of the mouth of Judge Rutherford, Jehovah's Witnesses is a false prophet. Thank you, and have a nice day.